at this time, the Rolling Stones were going around those bridges to Babylon. And I didn't do anything really cool or anything, but I did unload a truck.
Ready? Me. Hello and welcome to The Inside. I'm Jay, and with me, as always, is Adam. Hey, Adam. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, Jay. Hope you're doing well. Before we got on, for those of you listening at home, we were having a friendly competition to guess how many people were in the singing group, The Village People.
Yeah.
So we had a difference of opinion about that. Jay, name how many you think there are and what they wear, what their gimmick is.
Well, I think there's 5, and I don't remember much of what they're wearing. So here we go. There's a Native American guy, a police officer. I was going to say a cop, but that's the same thing, right? It's a police officer. Maybe like a fireman, bus driver, maybe.
Is that your final guess?
Yeah. Well, school teacher. I'm trying to think about civic people.
Is that past 5? Have you gone past 5?
I don't know. I'm still guessing. I figured the more guesses I get, the better. What about you? Are you in on this guessing, or you know the answer already?
I know the answer. But I'll be honest. I thought there was 4 originally, but there's actually 6.
Well, see, I have a little advantage over you because I'm old enough that I actually had the vinyl Village People album, and it had them like on the front, if I remember right. I'm also old enough that I don't have very good memory. But anyway, you said there are 6 of them?
There are 6. So there's a police officer, a cowboy,
okay,
a construction worker, a Native American, a guy in a formal military uniform, and then a guy who looks like he's like a biker. There we go.
Yeah,
he's
a
biker. There we go.
I remember that guy.
Yeah.
He's kind of like a Freddie Mercury wannabe.
Yeah. Well, the reason I thought there was 4 was because when I was in middle school, we went to the rodeo with the Boy Scouts. I was in Boy Scouts. And it was one of those things where it was like a line, and there was one real guy, and he had like one of those mechanical things where like there's like 4 people lined up, and like whenever he moves his arm, like all the mannequins move their arm too, and they were doing the YMCA dance thing.
Okay,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I guess their signature song. The only other song is like that one where it's like in the Navy.
Oh, yeah. I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and we were trying to remember another Village People song because I thought they had other ones that were popular.
Nope, just one.
I'm impressed you remember the In the Navy one.
Yeah, well, the computer, the music listening thing I used was like, hey, you should try this song. You'll like it. So I did. But, okay. I mean, none of them, they were like, you were around when they were like, were they like a boy band, or were they like a band where they all played something?
Wait, are they dead? You said when they were alive.
I meant did I say alive? I meant around, like when they were popular.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think they were just guys who danced around and didn't play any instruments, kind of like, well, like I guess today's in the boy bands that we're more familiar with.
Yeah, like what was it? NSYNC? Was that the one with Justin Timberlake, or was Timberlake Backstreet Boys?
I don't know, because I wasn't into this.
You didn't listen to them?
No. I was a rocker, man.
You were a rocker? Well, speaking of someone else that's a rocker and middle school teacher, I know you guessed teacher as one of the Village People, but someone that actually is a middle school teacher and loves to rock it out is our guest today, Keith Richards.
Oh yeah, not like the Rolling Stones, Keith Richards.
No, this Keith Richards is way better. He was in the Navy, like the Village People song says.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. He was an AV tech for a rock and roll band, and then he was in a rock and roll band himself. But now he's just He still plays a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But he's done a lot of other stuff like a real estate agent, wrestling coach, and now he's a teacher.
He sounds just like the kind of guy we'd want to talk to.
He does.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, how about we take a quick break, and then we'll come back and hear what our awesome guest Keith has to say.
Sounds good, man.
Keith, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for being on. How would you describe yourself to somebody?
Probably a 16-year-old in a 50-year-old body.
Nice. I can resonate with that one for sure.
Right. I'm the responsible adult. It's the road I chose, huh?
Yeah, man. Well, where did you grow up, and what was that like?
Well, I grew up down in South Florida in a little town called Fort Myers. It was a little town back then, but now it's really big. But it was great, man. We were right next to the beach and just kind of, never cold, always warm, nice sun, always had a tan going. And,
yeah. Do you ever get back there, or is there any reason to go back there?
Well, my family used to live down there, but they've all sort of dispersed. It's kind of changed down there. We like the small town stuff, and it got pretty big town. But yeah, I go down there. Matter of fact, I think we're going to be heading down to Sanibel Island, which is just right off the coast of where I was born, to take about a week's vacation. So maybe
Sweet.
once a year we go back. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah,
It's free. Don't think I'm some big muckety muck. It's my mother's condo. So
I grew up in the east coast of Florida too, and lots of I thought everywhere was hot and everybody was barefoot,
yeah, that was kind of it. Yeah.
Well, Keith, you were in the Navy, not Old Navy, right? Like the active,
No.
the military Navy.
Yeah, like the military Navy, not the
Okay.
poorly made jeans Navy.
Well, I just wanted to clear that up. So, what inspired you to join that, and what was it like serving in the Navy?
Well, I mean, I went to college, so I led a really kind of a sheltered life. I had a pretty strong-willed mother, and I kind of had I was under somebody's thumb. So I went to the University of Florida after I graduated high school, and had a great time. Had a wonderful time. They say there were classrooms at the University of Florida, but I never saw one. I think it's so. As I got out of that, the dean of students called me up and said, "Hey, man, maybe you should take a semester off." I said, "Okay," and I joined the Navy just because I didn't have any direction. I felt like I needed some discipline, and it was kind of just something that maybe. I don't know if it was an honorable thing or anything, but I just did it. I had to grow up, and I figured that would be a quick way to do it.
So how long did you serve in the Navy?
I was in for 3 years, 11 months, and 15 days.
Right.
Sounds like you were counting the days.
It was not the place for me. I got a lot out of the Navy, and I highly recommend doing it. But I was a very tall guy and strong-willed, and I joined the submarine service, and it just was kind of not my thing.
So from there, you just thought the natural progression is to try to be in a rock band or be a roadie?
Yeah. Yeah, so I was a funny story. I'm in Orlando, Florida. I decided to, I got out of the Navy and I moved down to back to Fort Myers, back home. And it had changed so much. And I said, you know what? I need to do something new. Everybody knew me down in Fort Myers. So I just kind of shake it up. And I moved to Orlando. And I'm going to get some money at the ATM. And a guy walks up to me and goes, "Hey, man, do you play guitar?" I'm like, "Why do you ask?" And he's like, "Well, we need a guitarist." And so I said, "Okay, great. I'll come out and try out." And ended up hooking into a band called Grave Danger, it was a whole lot of fun, man. I was a audiovisual technician, which means that you just set up projectors and sound systems for meetings for big companies and all. And then I ended up running into this guy, and so I became a musician / AV tech, and then I became a musician / roadie, and then I became a roadie.
So did you roadie for somebody we might have heard of?
No, I was an independent contractor, and I just did shows here and there. I set up a couple of shows at the in Orlando. At this time, the Rolling Stones were going around. It was Bridges to Babylon, and I didn't do anything really cool or anything, but I did unload a truck.
Well, a lot of people really, dream about being a rock and roll star, and you just went for it.
Yeah, I'm still dreaming about being a rock and roll star.
Well, who were your musical influences?
Well, man, back in the 80s, dude, I mean, you can't say you're a guitarist from the 80s without saying Eddie Van Halen. I really like what he did. I mean, I guess they call him King Edward now. And for good reason. I mean, he was a very big innovator. I also like guys like Yngwie Malmsteen, who was a shredder. He came out in a band called Steeler. He was really cool. He could play anything really, really fast. And I thought that was cool. Steve Vai was a big one for me. There was a fusion jazz guitarist out there, Al Di Meola, who I just thought was unreal. And then, finally, of course you say Jimi Hendrix and Jimmy Page and all that, but I really, really like, back then I liked progressive metal. So I was really into like Queensryche and stuff. And I ran into a band called Dream Theater, who is still out there playing, but their guitar player is just God. He's unreal. I mean, not the God, he's the guitar God. He's unreal. I really wish I could play like him. I can't, but I wish I could. So.
Well, you mentioned Eddie Van Halen, and I grew up in the same era as you, but even now, like sometimes if some Van Halen will come on, I'll have my earbuds in, and if you just isolate and listen to just what he's doing, he's playing like two guitars worth of music. And same for like Stevie Ray Vaughan, same thing where they're playing like the rhythm and the lead almost at the same time. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Yeah, SRV, man, holy moly! I remember the day the helicopter crashed. I was upset, real upset. But yeah, Eddie Van Halen, he's a freak of nature, and I just cannot figure out how to be that good. I really can't. Well, if you could, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking to you today.
Yeah.
Well, of course you would. You guys are awesome.
Well, are you still playing music?
Yeah, I still play music. I play, there's a church in Cullowhee, North Carolina, where I'm living now, and I play for their 905 band, which is a whole lot of fun, playing a bunch of praise and worship songs, but we also dabble in a bunch of 60s sort of hippie rock stuff. And at that same church, there's a college foundation called the Wesley Foundation, and I play guitar with them. There's a bunch of cool kids, It's kind of weird, I'm a 50-year-old man in a college rock band, but whatever.
Hey, I'm sure those guys love you.
Well, tolerate, I believe.
Well, shifting away from that, we've touched that you were in the Navy, that you were a rock star, but you've also done some other stuff. Like, what was it like being a real estate agent?
Sucked.
Next question.
No, I was a real estate agent, and started in 2000, and then in 2004 down in Florida, the entire real estate market took a big old dump, and then I became almost a homeless guy. So, I mean, it devastated me. I had no money, and it was, scrambling.
Well, and I'm sure at that time, the national economy was, within the next 3 or 4 years, it was tanking as well. So,
oh yeah,
it wasn't
it wasn't a good time to be a professional at all.
Well, how did you go from rock and roll real estate agent, Navy man, to a middle school science teacher?
I finished up my real estate. I had this last customer, and they were wanting to buy a pretty nice house, a pretty big house, and ended up closing with them and got a fairly large commission check out of that. So I got a good check, and we'd always come up to North Carolina, stayed in a campground in Whittier. And I said, someday I'm going to retire up there. So I retired from being a out of work real estate agent, and took that last commission check and moved up here to Franklin, North Carolina. And when I first got up here, some guy said, "Hey, you teach wrestling, right?" She goes, "You were a wrestler," and I'm like, "Yeah, I was a wrestler." You know what? Why? And he says, "Well, we need somebody to coach the high school team." So I ended up coaching the high school team, and I really got a lot out of it. You know, teaching kids how to wrestle was like one of the cool things in my life at that time. I was still doing the roadie thing, but I was a traveling freelance agent. But when I was home, I was coaching wrestling. And I thought, man, this is cool. I wonder what it would be like if I was teaching every day. And so I went back to college, and I was the oldest living freshman at Western Carolina University. So I'm in there with a bunch of 19-year-olds, and I'm 40, 45, 44, somewhere in there, maybe 42, and became a teacher. I just did it because, you know, it made me feel good. So that's how it happens. You know, you move somewhere, somebody asks you to do something, you say yes, and you end up changing your whole life.
Back to wrestling for a minute. Where did you learn that?
We moved right before my freshman year at in Florida to Arizona. So we moved to Scottsdale, Arizona, and I went out there, and one of the first guys that talked to me when I was out there said, "Hey man, you got to come out and try out for this wrestling team." And I'm like, wrestling? So I just thought it was going to be real cool, you know, hit somebody with a chair, jump off the ring ropes, that kind of a thing. Turns out it wasn't like that. But it was the coolest thing I've ever done, and got a lot of discipline out of that. So I started in Arizona, and the coach out there was a guy named Coach Donovan. He was amazing. Little guy, but great wrestler. And then we moved back to Florida because, you know, we had to shake it up. I apparently got that. It's a genetic code I got from my father where I got to shake it up all the time. And we moved back to Florida, and I wrestled for a guy named Gary Freeze in Fort Myers High School. It was amazing. He was such a good teacher and such a good wrestler. And on top of that, he had the sharpest elbows I've ever felt jam in the back of my head, ever. So I started there, and then I went to the University of Florida, and there was a club team up there, and I wrestled with the club team, and you know, did a lot of wrestling around. So a lot of fun.
Well, I bet like all the experiences you've had, the good and the bad, and all that stuff has really helped you out, like connecting with students, and especially you know, like I want to hear about that, but I also want to hear like, do you occasionally like, do they get to see you like rock out, and what's the reaction like?
Yes, as a musician nowadays, yeah, we have one big gig where myself and a few other staff members who are musicians get together, and we'll play and practice and play some 80s music, but there's a talent show.
The big gig is the talent show. That just cracks me up.
The school talent show.
Oh,
That's
hey guys,
my big gig.
sorry, I can't go with you guys out of town this weekend because I got a huge gig down at the gymnasium.
You know, I wish it was something I could cancel something for, but it's right in the middle of the school day, so I'm already there.
Okay, I'm sorry to interrupt. That's just cracked me up.
No, it's funny, isn't it? No, yeah, my big gig. No, so we go up there, and it's cool because, you know, I get up there and I rock out a couple of riffs and stuff and play, you know, a very poor rendition of something by Eddie Van Halen or something like that. And the kids are like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool." And it kind of gives me a little bit of street credit, but of course I teach 8th grade, and in about 2 or 3 days that's on to something new. So.
Is there anything else you do at school other than teach? Like, we know you wrestle and you have giant gigs you play through the school. But
hey, don't bust on my gig, man.
Oh, I'm not. I'm not.
Steal lunches from kids.
Yeah, you steal lunches from kids, stuff like that.
No, man. I don't steal their lunches, because I just take the money. So, I mean, I am a teacher. No, so at school I teach 8th grade science, and I am the wrestling coach for the middle school, which is great because I don't have to teach these kids. You know, I teach them how to, you know, a little bit of discipline, a little bit of self confidence, and how to love the sport of wrestling. And it's not really all about winning. It's more about loving it and moving on to high school. But, you know, when you fall in love with something, you start to do well at it and you progress. And I find that makes them win. But I am the wrestling coach. But I also coached with a friend of mine, Ray Crawford. I coached the Science Olympiad team. This year got cut short. COVID. They canceled the state tournament. But yeah, we were, I guess, for the last 5 or 6 years, we've been the champions for the conference, and a couple of top 10 places in the state. So that's not too bad.
You could always teach some of those Science Olympiad people some wrestling moves, because wrestling is part of the Olympics. And then if things aren't looking very good at the state level, they could put them in the full Nelson or something.
I'd never thought of that. That's a great idea.
I'm gonna give you that one for free, man.
Thank you, man. That's not like patented or anything, I hope.
No, just full Nelson, figure 4, something. I don't know if those are legit. Those probably aren't even legit. Now I'm going back to like WW.
No,
we're going back we're going back to throwing the chair days, right?
Exactly. Hey, but look, you know what? It's only illegal if you get caught. So
exactly. Hey, speaking of that, I don't need to know any names.
Speaking of illegal,
yeah, speaking of illegal in middle school, I don't need to know any names. But are there any special or crazy stories you have from your teaching experiences throughout the years?
Oh my
you want to
gosh,
share?
dude. You know what? There are just so many stories that I really wouldn't know where to start, and I really wouldn't know how to start. And, everything from, I got to drive the bus once, and so a little kindergartner came up to me and was whining and crying. I'm like, what's wrong? He said, oh, so-and-so took my seat. And I'm like, really? I'm so sorry. What do you want me to do? And he says, nothing. I just want and he dropped the F-bomb right there on me. A kindergartner. That was fun. Yeah, I just dropped an F-bomb. Said, I want my F seat. I was like, okay.
Keith, you're driving a school bus full of 50 kindergartners flying around the back.
No, I sent the kid back. I acted like I was really, really mad. I sent him back to the seat, and then I started giggling under my breath. Holy cow. As a kindergartner, know that word. But I guess it's everywhere, right?
Right.
So,
it is.
No, but I mean, there's just all sorts of stories, There's crazy stories here and there, and honestly, so many I can't hardly even remember which one is the best ones. But yeah, it's definitely an entertaining and humbling position, truly.
Yeah. And I think part of that not remembering like that is just a combination of the frat house in the 80s experience too.
You might be right.
Do you have any favorite sayings or words or things that you carry with you that inspire you? Like I have a couple in my life that I always refer back to that I think are really inspirational for me personally. Do you have something like that?
Somebody way back, and it was a teacher back in high school, I guess, who told me what Socrates once said. He said, the only true wisdom in life is knowing that you know absolutely nothing. And that, for me, says it all. It just keeps, every time somebody has something to say, I want to listen to it, which is good because, if you listen to people, you can pretty much gauge whether they're, on the line. I mean, if they know what they're talking about or if they're full of poo. So.
Well, that's a humbling saying too,
Well, I mean, if you really think about all that's out there, we know really just the very tip of the iceberg.
So we're living in this really weird time that none of us have ever experienced. There's a lot of uncertainty and stress and anxiety. You guys had to go from the middle of the semester to changing like immediately to this online thing. And everybody did the best they could, even though they were doing poorly. And that, I mean that for students and teachers. And it was hard for everyone, and so like if this was heard like all over the world or whoever's hearing this, but especially to teachers, like what would you say to people?
I mean, we just got to be smart. You got to be smarter than you are brave on this one. Do the right thing, wash your hands, all that good stuff. But I'll tell you what, in my profession, man, I have missed the kids so much. Every day is such a great day, a learning experience. And, it's frustrating at times, but golly, man, I certainly do think that, in this area, this is the greatest place in the world to teach. These kids are they're wonderful kids. And when they first closed the schools, I'm sure everybody in the student body jumped up and down and went, yay, yay. And, we got an extra month for spring break. But then when they said, okay, that's it for the year, I'm sure that everybody's like, whoa. I have had a couple of kids say, you know what, I really miss school. I miss seeing you guys in the classroom and all that. And, of course, that goes back to them 100% because, I thought I was going to, help the country and all, but it's just the kids, man, helping them and seeing them grow. That's really missing right now. It really is. When you see a kid and you get one of those aha moments where they go, oh, wow, I get it. That's like really rewarding for yourself. I know I'm supposed to be doing it for them, but gee whiz, it works for me too, man. It's a hard thing to know what to say or what to do, but I just hang in there maybe. Maybe that's a very long roundabout way to get to hang in there. Everything's going to be all right.
We've said this number a lot on this episode. It was the 80s, man, It was like that was always the excuse for everything. But first, why is that always the excuse people give? Oh, it was the 70s. Like you just write off any mistake within the decade. But with the year 80, how do you see yourself living life when you are 80 years old?
When I'm 80 years old, I hope I'm doing it exactly like I'm doing right now. Just maybe a little bit slower, but I hope not. But, will I still be teaching? I don't know. Would they still let me at 80?
Hey, kids, can you guys push Mr. Richards into the classroom?
We got to wheel him up on stage for the big gig.
Yeah, wheel him into the gymnasium for this year's big gig.
Yeah, it's just me, my Stratocaster, and my hover round. All right.
I forgot about those.
You should totally do a solo in the hover round. Just like one spotlight on the gym stage.
Spinning like a 360.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Oh, good gosh, that's funny.
That's better than the drummer for Motley Crue going out like over the crowd and like spinning around upside down.
How cool was that?
Well, Keith, thank you so much for coming on today. I really enjoyed it. I'm sure Jay really enjoyed it.
It
right?
was so much fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was super fun. This was great. I appreciate you guys asking me.
Well, that was really fun. I really enjoyed that, man.
Yeah, I thought it was a good time talking to Keith. But, I still have a question, though, about the story of when he was at the ATM. So he's at the ATM, and some random guy just comes out of nowhere and is like, hey, man, do you play guitar? Like, how can you just look at somebody and think, like, that guy is a guitar player?
There's got to be more of that story. He must have been like profiling Keith for weeks, following him around and stuff.
I don't know. I just want to know more about how that works, because most of the time I think I see somebody and I think I have judged who they are. I'm totally wrong.
Well, then also, like, from Keith's perspective, some random guy comes up to you and asks if you play guitar, and you say yes, and like you just hop into their band like that.
Smoke's blowing out of the windows. Oh man, what did you think?
I really, really admire educators like Keith Richards. It's sometimes they get overlooked, and they play especially in middle school. Those are some really formative years that kids are going through, and sometimes people have a tough time in that age range. And for them to have someone like Keith to look up to as an influence and inspire these kids, I mean, really, why can't every teacher be like Keith Richards, playing those big gigs in the school gymnasium? So I just want to say I'm really grateful for Keith and all his stuff he does as an educator.
Yeah, me too. That was a good interview.
Was that it for today, you think?
Yeah, I think that'll wrap her up.
Alrighty, well, that was The Inside. Special thanks to our guest, Keith, and as always, our producer, Dave. We'll have more episodes dropping soon, so feel free to check us out wherever you listen to podcasts. And follow us on Instagram at The Inside Podcasters.
All right, it's great. Okay.
It's a hard thing to know what to say or what to do, but I mean, I just hang in there maybe.